There's an actual trial of Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort. Now, if you know anything about Paul Manafort, you know he's been part of the swamp in Washington for a long, long time. He had close working ties with Hillary Clinton's campaign manager's foundation, the Podesta Group. He funneled money from them to John Podesta's brother, Tony, which is why Tony Podesta is no longer at that organization. And so it's a big net. And once you start prosecuting, you see that that's why they call it a swamp, because guys like Trump's campaign manager are literally working shoulder to shoulder with Hillary Clinton's campaign manager's foundation. So now they're going to prosecute Paul Manafort. So you're like, oh my God, I guess we're going to find out all about this collusion and this treason. They've been investigating this guy for 2 years, and Trump's campaign, they're such nincompoops. I bet they're leaving clues all over the place and evidence, right? So let's watch. Here, if you go to my computer, there it is. It says, Paul Manafort wants trial moved to Roanoke, says Northern Virginia is too liberal. So that's the headline in the Washington Post. So what I want to show you is, I'm going to show you how long the article is, because they bury the lead. As far as I'm concerned, they buried the lead.
The article is all this discussion of, the prosecutors want the trial in D.C. and his lawyers are saying no, D.C. is too liberal. He wants it in Virginia because he can't get a fair trial in D.C. because they all hate Trump, and Virginia they love Trump, and so or the more people love Trump. It's all blah 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 blah, that sort of thing.
It's heavy. It's a really long article, heavy in detail. And it's also heavy in detail on the charges, except watch what's not one of the charges. So I'm going to show you how long this article is in this video. Here we go. Long article. You see all that stuff, Manafort, the drug, the federal district court, the thing, that thing, the bank, this. And then look at this paragraph. Look at this paragraph. The government does not intend to present at trial evidence or argument concerning collusion with the Russian government, says Assistant U.S. Attorney. I'll read that again. The government does not intend to present at trial evidence or argument concerning collusion with the Russian government. Did you see how long it took for them to get to that in that article? Did you see how long it took them to get to that? That should be the headline of that article, as far as I'm concerned, because when everyone sees that Paul Manafort's, because you know that 60% of the people don't read past the headline. So when people see that headline, they're like, oh, Trump's campaign manager's going to trial for collusion with Russia. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. They're not even going to bring that up. To me, that's the headline of that article. What do you think about that, Steve? Wouldn't that be?
So what is he going to trial for?
So here's I'll show you. Prosecutors have said that they will present evidence that a banker helped Manafort obtain a $16 million in loans because he hoped to get a position in the Trump administration. That's what they're going to charge him with. What? That's what this whole investigation is about? Are you kidding? So by the way, if you put a prosecutor on anybody in Washington, D.C., they will find illegal doing. They will find corruption like this. They will find shady business deals. They put a prosecutor on Bill Clinton. Guess what happened? They impeached him. That's what happens when you put a prosecutor on somebody who's been working in the swamp their whole life.
Wait, but there was a land deal in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Shady land deal. They put the prosecutor, and that's what he was impeached over, right?
Turns out, no. He was impeached over something totally unrelated to that.
What, like sex?
Oh, my God.
What's more unrelated? What could be they were going to?
And here's Paul Manafort he was being investigated because of the collusion with the Russian government and treason. And now we're getting him because some banker gave him a loan because he wanted to get influence in the Trump campaign. Isn't that amazing? Here's what else they say. In short, the defendant's role with the Trump campaign is relevant and inextricably intertwined with the bank fraud and bank fraud conspiracy charges. Here, it would be difficult for the jury to understand why the loans were approved without understanding that the lender approved the loans in spite of the identified deficiencies because the senior executives factored in his own blah, 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 blah. That's all this. Double CK. That's what that is. The real story is that this is about regular corruption. And some people are saying, well, of course, Jimmy, he's not going to charge him with treason yet. He doesn't want to tip his hand on how he's going to prosecute. It's been 2 years. 2 years. When is this treason evidence going to present itself? It's never going to present itself. And do you know why I know that? Because the former director of the CIA admitted it. He said if there was evidence, it would have already been leaked. And the fact that it hasn't been leaked and that every reporter from New York to Los Angeles has been trying to find a connection and evidence of it, and they haven't, means there probably isn't. That was the former director of the CIA who admitted that. Again, that was buried in an article in Vox. Just like this was buried, that statement was buried almost in the last paragraph. So this is how your government does propaganda. Just so you know, this is how the news media aids your government in doing propaganda. This is a paper owned by Jeff Bezos, whose Trump's tax cut just gave him billions more dollars.
Well, I think that in addition to what you point out about this article, as I'd like to underscore what you said also earlier about how widespread corruption is, and that you could investigate almost anybody in Washington, and probably a lot of other places, rich people in general.
And why don't you investigate that Clinton Foundation?
But even aside from the political implications, that there is so much white collar crime going on in America that is unprosecuted, and nobody ever investigates. But if you're a kid in New York who's 16 years old who gets accused of stealing a backpack, and they put you in Rikers Island for 3 years and you commit suicide, those crimes, they're going to pursue those crimes, and until this teenager kills himself.
If you jump a turnstile in a subway, they'll call a helicopter out for you. But they literally did that.
But so when they talk about draining the swamp, like the upper echelon, the 1%, it's endemic, and
they're all guilty of something.
There's so much, but the SEC is underfunded. I mean, the investigators since certainly George Bush, but even before then, we're just not interested in prosecuting. It's what Trump is doing with the IRS. The IRS is not going after rich people now either. I mean, you're given a pass basically, and Paul Manafort's mistake was getting involved in the Trump administration in the first place, because that exposes him.
It exposes him.
Cohen, all the corruption that Cohen was involved in, he was fine. They were all doing fine, and everybody thought they were going to just live off this gravy train, and Trump's campaign was going to do them good because Trump was going to lose, but it would still give them access to a lot more money. And then he won, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, and now
the spotlight is on us.
Yes.
But you shine that spotlight almost anywhere, and you're going to expose this sort of thing.
Well, also the other problem is that this obsession with the Russian angle diminishes the importance of going after corruption. So if this guy's guilty of corruption and there's corruption all over, well, let's go after the corruption. Why do you need to sexy it up more with the Russian angle? I mean, if the prosecutors themselves are not going to pursue it, then why do we need to pursue that in the media?
We've come to another end of the Aggressive Progressives, but you haven't heard the end. There's a lot more to this show, and you can get it earlier when it actually drops. So the news is timely. What do you got to do to have that happen? Go to tytnetwork.com/join. Become a member.